Cool. Yeah, so today was about what does a database management system look like from the inside. And a lot of the important things today to get out of today are terminology. And other important things to get out of today are terminology and concepts. And another important thing to get out of today is some like JavaScript practice. So we saw and talked about what a database is, that it's this block of data stored on a file somewhere or stored in files potentially somehow, and it has to be persistent, which is hence the files. It has to be organized, hence some kind of structure, and then it has to be queryable. And that last part is something that we need to fill in with some kind of database management system. So the database management system is that software that you can actually run that is going to talk to this database or these sets of databases. And then you can pass it code of some kind, and there's the querying part, and it will come back with information. So that's important terminology to get, and stuff that we've talked about in lecture already, but hopefully things that feel much more concrete after these exercises, something like you can point to. Some other terminology and things, like what a query language is, what JSON is, and serialization formats. Some things about object-oriented programming, and some things about functional programming, potentially, that we didn't cover in lecture, but that come up during the workshop. And then some intermediate concepts in databases, like indexing, how we can, like an index at the back of a textbook, store information somewhere to make certain queries easier and faster is really what I mean. Some JavaScript practice that I think is useful to take out of here. We worked with class syntax, and we also worked with probably throughout this, there's some good chances for ES6 that you'll see in the review video if you didn't get there already. But in general, just working with classes and working with the file system in Node, and working to complete lots of small methods and compose them to do something. As well as a method chaining pattern that is what happens in the query interface, where we have .select, .where, .limit. That's a method chaining where we have these dots continuously typed after each other. Like we invoke a method and then a dot and then another method and then a dot and then another method. It's a method chaining pattern. So again, today's been a foray into what a database management system is from the inside, and that's cool, but not something that you're ever gonna be expected to do or die. It's cool to know, and it's cool to get a chance to look at the inside of this thing. But I think more important takeaways are, what are these tools? What do they mean? And what are some JavaScript things? Does that lead to any questions? Any other things that you all want to talk about?
Actually, so I was thinking about the indexing aspect, and I know we're kind of implementing it today, but is there just like a way, like how we were doing those SQL exercises when we first started SQL, when you were just working with the Postgres and typing in select all and things like that? Is there a way to just kind of practice indexing on that lower level way?
Yeah, like practice using indexes in like SQL or something.
Yeah, just in a way where I don't have to implement the JavaScript aspect.
Right.
Play around with that idea.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Definitely, indexing is not something that also like before that you need to implement yourself. So Postgres and MySQL and whatever will come with things for that. In SQL, I believe the syntax will be something like create index, if I'm remembering it correctly. As for if I know of somewhere to practice creating and then utilizing indexes, there's nothing I know of out there, but I could look it up and see if I can find something interesting for you. I'd say another fun way to think about practicing it is if you, like in senior phase, or if you're working on any side projects, once you get to any bottlenecks in your query, where you're like, okay, I've got all of these, comments that are listed by date, but I've got tens of thousands of them. And now I need to query for just ones that happened between yesterday and right now. So that kind of query might get really slow. And I encourage you, even if you don't get to thousands and thousands of rows or anything in your side projects or your senior phase projects, I encourage you to think about indexing and to bring it up again then to yourself and to whoever you're working with at the time, and ask the question, what kinds of queries do we expect, and what should we be, thinking about indexing to make those queries more performant? That thought and that reminder, I think, is like a really important instinct to have when working on a project and when trying to scale a project effectively.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, but I'll see what I can find out there, because there might be some cool things online for practicing it. Cool. Well, that was today then. It's 6 o'clock and it's Saturday, and I can't stop you from working, but you should stop working. And I'm going to send out in Slack, and it's also going to be in your GitHub library repo, links to solution code and a review video. You don't have to look at it. That's fine. You can keep working on this for the next couple weeks or years if you really want to. But it's also it's in a playlist, so you can look at just review for part 1 and then part 2 and then part 3 if you want to.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
So, all right. Have a good night, and it was great.
Thanks.
Good night.